this shit up.
To have a friend like you.
To have a friend like you.
To have a friend like you.
Times when I wanna be lonely. There are times when life can be downright cruel. Life is up and it's down, oh it's all love, that's how you remind me. Oh, that it's good to have a friend
To have a friend like
You all sit up there and said you would not allow Trump to come in and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in a $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. You campaign and double down that you would not raise property taxes.
I won't raise your property taxes.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what we asking now. Since you want to crash out, some of y'all say y'all willing to go to jail for it. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example out this Negro right here first. Please come here first.
The mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, has absolutely been humiliated at a recent he was exposed for attempting to raise property taxes and spend more taxpayer dollars on illegal aliens in his city.
That American dream is slipping out of the grasp of millions of people. Trump has unleashed a huge set of tax cuts for the wealthiest, funded by cuts in the social anger and fear are natural.
I made the choice to give up
as well.
cannabis and cannabis products this weekend. And I got one little fat nug in my bone. Think I'm gonna go on here and blast it.
There are 29 in mine. I'm Raja Krishnamurthy, and I approve this message.
Raja for Senate.
Chicago has been a major problem for a long time, we all know this. The mayor's been completely roasted by his own community, and this comes just days after Trump pledged that he would
So, I'll be back in a second.
to deploy the National Guard to cities like Chicago, just like he did in Los Angeles, due to incompetent inaction from local leaders such as Mayor Johnson. Like, it's no secret that Chicago is a failing city. It's one of the main examples that highlights how bad Democratic leadership is in these big blue cities. It's one reason that Trump has been so vocal on social media, and as continuous inaction leads to more senseless violence. All of it could have been prevented, and it's not just the mayor of Chicago, it's also the governor of the entire state of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. You got two woke politicians who have no idea what they're doing, or they know what they're doing and they don't care. They're going to plan to raise state and local taxes on their communities? Really? This is absolutely outrageous that these cities have been left untreated for their crime numbers for so long, and is one of the reasons that Trump's actions in Washington, D.C. have been so popular with the American public.
Developing story today, Chicago's
problem, to say it, could be worse than we previously thought.
And that is according to a worst-case scenario released this afternoon by the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget. What could this mean for you? Our Charlie Wojciechowski joining us now in studio to sort out what could happen next. Charlie.
Well, Alex, Allison, when the COVID relief funds ran out, a lot of city budgets were thrown into turmoil. Chicago was no different. Now it's looking at how big that gap is and what the city needs to do about it. Chicago budget officials sounding the alarm this morning that Chicago is facing a $1 billion budget gap that could grow if new sources of revenue can't be found.
We anticipate a $1.15 billion gap in 2026 and slightly increasing in 2028 to $1.23 billion.
And it's not just the crime numbers that are bad in Chicago. They can't even manage their own city budget. They were relying on federal funds, COVID relief, to maintain a balanced budget. That's a temporary measure that no city should ever rely on for their permanent budget status. But I mean, it's no surprise that the mayor of Chicago would let this happen, who happens to be a radical left Democrat with no common sense, apparently. But now his office is sounding the alarm and begging for help from the federal government because he can't find a way to keep his city on track. I mean, it was bad enough when crime numbers were rising to even higher levels, but now Chicago's residents have to accept the fact that their mayor is so incompetent that he couldn't even balance the budget without using COVID relief funds. It's insanity. The pandemic has been over for a long time now, and Chicago is facing a multi-billion-dollar deficit that will expand over the next several years. Trump has been calling out the incompetent leadership in Chicago for years, and now the fact coming out that the mayor's performance is being absolutely humiliated on his own local news stations.
What we're doing in Chicago is working. I've made critical investments in employment, particularly our young people. Over 31,190 people had summer jobs, a 50% increase since I've taken office. I've expanded mental and behavioral health care services. We're on pace to build 10,000 affordable units by the end of my first term. And we've revamped our entire detectives bureau so that we can hold people accountable. And as a result of those investments, homicides are down 32%, shooting victims are down nearly 40%, robberies are down nearly 35%, vehicular carjackings are down almost 50%. There's more work to do. Don't misunderstand me. But what I know what works is that when you invest in people, and particularly communities that have been historically locked out of opportunities, that's how we build safe and affordable communities, not just across Chicago, but across America.
Mayor Brandon Johnson decided to publicly pat himself on the shoulder for his great performance as mayor on MSNBC, where he claimed that crime numbers were dropping rapidly and more local residents had summer jobs than ever before. So I'm not sure what crime statistics he's looking at, but the crime in Chicago is not getting better. In fact, it's almost as bad as it's ever been, and even MSNBC is not buying his lies. And that leaves very few options for President Trump, who is expecting to announce a major operation in Chicago next week to crack down on crime, similar to what he just did in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's unknown if he'll fully deploy the National Guard, but even if Trump does commit to deploying the National Guard in Chicago, that's not going to fix the state's budget problems. Chicago will run out of money eventually, and probably very quickly.
People. Now that place has been cleaned up.
Chicago police say 7 people in the Bronzeville neighborhood were told a group of people were standing outside around 11 o'clock last night when a car drove by and someone fired into the crowd. The victims include 5 women and 2 men ranging in age from 28 to 32 years old. All were shot in the lower half of their bodies. They were taken to the hospital and all of them are expected to be okay.
Shout out to the Chicago police officers. I know that you guys are disgusted right now. Not because you get to work all of the overtime that you want to work in this crisis, because they have a shortage of over 2,000 police officers. And that's partly because they want to make sure that they lower crime as much as they possibly can before the federal takeover comes inside of Chicago, and there's plenty of people that are advocating for the Trump takeover to come into Chicago because they live in this inner city and they are not one of the liberals that live on the outskirts of Chicago where they don't have a lot of violent crime, but they are still considered liberal, and so they go out and they get their lattes and they Starbucks and all of this stuff. Not those people, not the people that come into the city in order to protest and then leave the city at night and then have every resident on the south side, and this shooting that just happened right around a block from the police station. No, not the people that 5-year-old just a couple days ago get shot inside of Chicago. No, none of those people. And the mayor is saying that they don't want any help. They're saying that they don't want Trump's help. They don't want Trump's help after they've seen the results, and Mayor Bowser over in D.C. say that they actually like the fact that it's hardly no carjackings and it's hardly no deaths, and the places that would usually have drug dealers and a whole lot of homeless people, now that place has been cleaned up. Regular people and pedestrians to be able to go back and forth and do whatever it is that they do. No, not any of those people, right? And so this over Labor Day weekend in Chicago, right, is the norm. Drive-by shooting. Now, they're going to classify this as violent crime because nobody actually died. But more importantly, here's the thing. They haven't caught the shooter. They don't know who the shooter is. They just got away. It's not really that big of a deal. And lower, thank God that the shooter probably had a switch because they hit 7 people, which include 5 women, 5 women in their prime childbearing years. Thank God that the shooter was only aiming low because it hit everybody on the low instead of hitting everybody in their upper, which would probably cause a much more fatal situation. But yes, in Chicago, it is in shambles and shooters are shooting, and it's only the beginning of the weekend because this just happened last night, and so we're starting to get reports of the new shootings later. It's crazy, isn't it? Isn't it crazy how you can predict that this was going to happen despite the fact that the Trump administration has already announced that they were coming to Chicago?
Good evening, and thanks for being with us and spending part of your Sunday here with CBS News Chicago. I'm Marie Saavedra. We begin with breaking news update on what was a violent night for Chicago police. 5 women and 2 men were hurt in a mass shooting that was right outside of police headquarters. Our Sade Gray.
Now, let me say this before we deep dive into this particular article, okay? We don't classify these things as mass shootings. It has to be a church. It has to be a Catholic school like over in Minneapolis. It has to be probably a white person in order for this to really be classified as a mass shooting. But mass shootings in the hood is pretty regular for the people that grew up in the hood and is still in the hood and don't want things to be changed or gentrified because they would like for their place to stay exactly like it is because that's all they know. It's the only thing that they've ever seen before. But shootings are normal in the hood. It's only mass to the people that is not used to being there. But let's continue.
He explains that wasn't the only incident.
A mass shooting happened right across the street from the Chicago Police Department headquarters parking lot. The cleanup process is now underway.
The centerpiece of future family memories. Seating fit for a king. Or
the city's street sweepers clean up a mess that resulted in several people.
We got some down in the curb down this way too.
Fire crews also called out to clean up blood-stained cement. Police say 7 people were shot in the 3500 block of South State Street, just around the corner from Chicago Public Safety Headquarters, around 11 Saturday night. Police say a vehicle with multiple men inside went down the block, and at least one of the men opened fire on a crowd. Maddie Curry heard the gunshots.
All this pop, pop, pop. They lit up on that side just like.
Now, should this old woman that lived to see the age that she is, should she be subjected to such trauma this late in her life? Should this old woman possibly have stray bullets going by back and forth? And look at this tree-lined street. This is supposed to be a safe space. This happened right across the street from a police station. Would you want your grandmother to have this happening at her block?
Like Christmas time coming. These cars just lit up. They were all behind each other. All these shooting and shooting. I'm thinking it's 4th of July.
All 7 people were shot and taken to the hospital in good condition. A few hours later, police say 3 men were shot in the Pilsen neighborhood. They were standing outside in the 1900 block of West 17th Street when someone came up and shot them all. 2 men were shot in the leg and are expected to be okay, but a 46-year-old man was struck multiple times in the body and died.
What did I tell you? Listen, this is all one night. This is all one night. This is not like, you know.
Administration is saying it's going to send a surge of federal ICE agents and probably National Guard. So we need to know every step that happens leading up to this so that when this goes down, we're ready for it and we know exactly what led up to it. Now, we all know that your boy, the illustrious sub 10% approval rating mayor of Chicago, the Dramacrat, Brandon Johnson, we all know that he's there trying to stop any kind of assistance from coming into his city, to stop the violence, the shootings, the killings, and to kind of highlight his failure as a mayor over the Labor Day weekend. And so far, we're only halfway through, y'all. We're only halfway through Labor Day weekend, and there have already been 35 people shot and at least 5 or more people killed. And we're only halfway through. Now, y'all, I'm going to give you a quick analogy, and then we're going to jump into this story, which is heartbreaking, but it's also important that we know so that, again, once this surge of federal troops comes through, which it's apparently they're building, so that we are fully informed. But y'all, I'm going to give you a quick analogy. I was trying to think about this. I was thinking about this because, see, one of the big kind of talking points is, why are you going to send in federal troops? Well, yeah, we have a violence problem, but violence has decreased by 30%. It's decreased by 35%. So I try to think of an analogy like, and I admit argumentation by analogy is a very dicey business, but I try to think, what if you lived in a pretty nice house? And you have an adult child who lives in one of the rooms in your house. And one day their door is open and you notice they have a bunch of rodents in their room, like not pets, like their room's junky. They have food everywhere. It's very unkempt, right? And they have a pest problem. And you say, oh my gosh, like I really try to keep this house nice. You have to get this under control. And sometime later, you go back to their room, let's say several weeks later, you go back to their room and you say, yo, I'm still seeing a bunch of rodents. I'm still seeing a bunch of pests. I'm about to call an exterminator. And they say, no, Ma, no, Dad. You might not be able to tell this, but there's 30% less pests in my room now than there were. Wouldn't you just say, I don't care. I still see a bunch of pests. It's unacceptable. I'm calling the exterminator. That's what I think is happening in Chicago. Now, I'm talking about people committing violence, people who are victimizing other people. And you say, yes, it's great, it's 30% less, but it's still 500% too much. So we're calling in the exterminators. So we're calling in for backup because you obviously can't get it to the levels that it should be. Now, that's my analogy. It might be crude. It might be somewhat controversial. But frankly, we're talking about people who are victimizing other people and who are shooting and killing people. So, y'all, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shoot into this report of where we stand so far in the Labor Day violence surge that Chicago seems to see every year. And then we're going to see how your boy, the illustrious sub 10% approval rating Dramacrat mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, how he's essentially turning his back on his city. Let's go ahead and get into it. But before we do, y'all, make sure you take care of your money. I'm not going to make this a long one, y'all. Go to Paralegold, PARALEGOLD.com, or call 844-651-8334, 844-651-8334. If you have $50,000 to $100,000 or more in your retirement, protected from inflation, protected from monetary debasement, you're about to retire. Make sure your money's still there and it's still worth something by investing at least some of it in gold. Talk to our partners at Augusta Precious Metals. Go click the link now, get the free information, and protect your precious retirement.
It's been a bloody weekend so far in Chicago with more than a dozen shootings in 48 hours.
WGN's Brona Tumblety joins us from 35th and Michigan with details. Brona?
Good evening, guys. Since Friday evening around 5 o'clock, there have been at least 21 shootings across the city, totaling about 3 dozen victims, at least 5 of whom have died. A series of shootings in the last 48 hours have left 5 people dead in Chicago. This as the Trump administration possibly prepares to send thousands of National Guard members to our city. Today, bullet holes still visible in vehicles along the 1900 block of West 17th Street in Pilsen, some even being driven with smashed glass. It's after a shooting around 1:30 this morning, in which police say 3 men in their 40s were hit. Residents say the 2 youngest of those victims, believed to be aged 41 and 43, were attending an outdoor party when someone approached with a gun and shot them both in the legs. The older victim, whom police say was 46, passed away. Locals say he was homeless and harmless, well known in the neighbourhood. Witnesses tell WGN he was shot in the head, execution style. Less than half an hour before all of this, 4 people were struck on the 2700 block of West Haddon Avenue in Humboldt Park. All were in their 20s and 30s and taken to various hospitals in good condition. And a separate incident earlier in the evening in Bronzeville saw 7 victims. It happened along the 3500 block of South State Street shortly after 11. Authorities believe it to be a drive-by shooting, with someone in a vehicle opening fire into a crowd. All of the victims were shot in their lower limbs, and all are expected to survive. So far, no arrests in any of those incidents. As we've been reporting, though, if you look at the latest CPD data available, crime overall in the city this year is down by about 13%. And if you look specifically at shooting incidents, it has dropped by almost 40% on last year's numbers. We're live at 35th in Michigan. Brona Tumblety, WGN News.
So, y'all, there you see, okay, you see the surge in violence that happens every year, right? My condolences to all of the people in Chicago who have to live with this. Now, I say that your boy is turning back on his city. Why is that? Because he obviously can't get this under control. He's been the mayor for 2 years, and this sort of thing is still happening. And he's going to tell you, hey, be happy. Because previously, this would have been 30 to 40% worse. So instead of 35 people, it might have been 50 people or 60 people or 100 people. So he's telling you, you should feel good that the mass shootings, there's less people being shot in mass shootings that are occurring on a weekly basis. You see what I mean? And is that called, is that called gaslighting? What is that even called? So I'm saying he's turned his back on Chicago to the point where he's signing an executive order trying to prevent his city from getting much needed federal help, y'all. Let's take a look.
We want to begin tonight with the executive order signed by Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. Now, this afternoon, he detailed the plan as President Trump threatens to send federal forces to Chicago. Our Randy Gyllenhaal has more on the plan set forth by the mayor.
Well, tonight on social media, President Trump posting a warning to Illinois as leaders here in Chicago are preparing for the unprecedented.
We do not want to see tanks in our streets. We do not want to see families ripped apart.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson vowing pushback against White House plans to send ICE agents or even National Guard troops into Chicago. Taking a page from Trump and signing this executive order, largely symbolic, requiring federal agents wear body cameras and uniforms and show their faces, declaring Chicago police will remain locally controlled.
We may see militarized immigration enforcement. We may also see National Guard troops. This president continues to go well beyond the bounds of the Constitution.
Trump citing crime in Chicago, pointing to 6 homicides last weekend, even as killings are down about 30% this year. Writing on Truth Social, the weak and pathetic governor of Illinois just said he doesn't need help in preventing crime. He is crazy. He better straighten it out fast or we're coming.
They're just looking to invade the city of Chicago. This is a part of his plan to do something really nefarious, which is to interfere with elections in 2026. He wants to have troops on the ground.
The operation could be based out of North Chicago. Naval Station Great Lakes is set to host federal ICE and Homeland Security agents. It's unclear if the National Guard will join, and using the Guard for domestic crime could be unconstitutional.
He cannot use the National Guard to enforce immigration law, because in order to federalize the National Guard, there has to be an insurrection, or we must be under some kind of invasion or rebellion in order to justify that.
Well, Chicago officials say there is no emergency here. If the immigration raids were to start next week, they could coincide with the Mexican Independence Day celebrations here in the city. Reporting downtown, Randy Gyllenhaal, NBC 5 News.
Now, on top of signing this pretty useless executive order that is not worth the paper it's printed on, your boy has also run his city, or continued to run his city, into the ground fiscally to the tune of a $1.15 billion budget shortfall. Are you surprised? I'm not.
As Labor Day weekend arrives, tourists continue to visit Chicago's top attractions. Revenue generated from amusement and recreation taxes is up this year, but not nearly enough to bail the city out of a budget deficit that is larger than originally expected.
Without significant shifts in how we balance our budget, the services that the people of Chicago have begun to rely upon, they would certainly be in jeopardy.
As he begins the process of balancing the 2026 budget by the end of the year, Mayor Johnson says the city is $1.15 billion in the hole. The increased forecast includes closing this year's budget $146 million short and possibly having to absorb a controversial pension payment the Chicago Board of Education voted not to include in the school district's budget.
Our economy does remain resilient, but fiscal discipline is certainly required in this moment.
But the mayor's critics say fiscal discipline was required the moment Johnson took office.
I think the way we got here was the Johnson administration just started piling on more and more expenditures over and over and over again every month.
Former City Council Finance Committee Chairman Scott Wagasback says the Johnson administration has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on contracts without City Council approval during the migrant crisis. He also says the mayor refused to right-size government after COVID and expanded staffing at City Hall.
We really don't have enough in the revenue side of things to pay for the things that he wants. You have to cut. And if you don't cut, your only option is to borrow more or to hit the property tax hike.
Besides a grocery tax, Johnson did not offer any specifics on how he plans to close the deficit. He has consistently called for the ultra-rich and large corporations to pay more, but many of the mayor's progressive revenue ideas will take action from Springfield. When asked, the mayor would not commit to layoffs or a property tax hike.
There are ways in which we can create efficiencies without necessarily laying people off, but again, it's too early to be able to make that determination.
The mayor is expected to present his budget recommendations mid-October. It will then be followed by departmental hearings. The hope is to have the full city council vote on a budget in November.
So y'all, there's going to be a federal surge into Chicago soon. I think we can all agree that if it were not a sanctuary city, that if it were overall a safe city, this surge wouldn't even be on the table, right? And I think we can all agree that they need the help. But I'm not saying that I think a federal surge is the best answer. I don't know. Like, frankly, I don't have any way to know that. All I know is that whatever they've been doing is not working, right? And they don't seem like they can really, the leadership there doesn't seem like it can be left to its own devices to make things much better. That's what I'm saying. So y'all, we're going to close this out. I'm going to do my wrap up, and then I'm going to close this out with Danielle Carter. She is a Chicago resident of Chicago Flips Red. She is an outspoken voice for sanity in the city, for peace in the city, for reasonable policies in the city. And I have put her X handle on the video so that y'all can all go give her a follow, give her kudos, and like the video. But I'm gonna run it here because y'all are already watching, and she has something to say, and you should be able to hear it. So y'all drop a comment down below. Do you think that the illustrious sub 10% approval rating Dramacrat mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, what do you think he's gonna do when those federal agents show up at his doorstep? What do y'all think he's gonna do? It's kind of an open-ended question. How's he gonna handle it? Let me know down in the comments, y'all. But before you do, please stop, hit the share button. Share this video out over email, text message, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all your favorite social mediums. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. For my people with the retirement, y'all, hit the link. You can go down in the description. The very first link, Paralegal Gold, PARALEGOLD.com. Go get the information about protecting your retirement from this crazy world we're in, y'all. With gold, the oldest, strongest, hardest, longest, strongest money that mankind has ever known. And speak to my people at Augusta Precious Metals at 844-651-8334. Thank y'all for watching. Love y'all. See you back in the next one. We're gonna flow right into Danielle Carter.
I just woke up to some tragic news, and I want to send out condolences out to the family on behalf of Chicago Flips Red. I just received news that between sundown Saturday and sunrise today, 25 people were shot across Chicago. 3 of them lost their lives. Nearly half of the victims were targeted in a pair of mass shootings, both involving drive-by gunmen who opened fire on a large crowd. With one of the mass shootings, this report comes from Chi-Town Crime Chaser. Big ups to him. This happened on 36th and State, mass shooting, 5 people shot. Chicago police are investigating a mass shooting that left 5 people wounded at an after party overnight. CPD was merely monitoring a large after party, which started at another nearby location, celebrating Stateway Gardens Project reunion. Shots were fired at the party, which made CPD call in a 10-1 emergency, prompting a large response from multiple districts. CPD located several gunshot victims on the scene. Some self-reported to the hospitals. CPD found a rifle in the passenger seat of a car. This is what I've been saying on every platform that I've been on. When I went on CNN on the Victor Blackwell show, when he would start telling me about the crime statistics and how they're down, and I keep telling these people, you can't tell us that crime is down because we are experiencing what's going on in our communities. You can't tell us what's going on. We know what's happening.